I always knew Mondays were cursed. But this one came with an extra shot of humiliation and lukewarm latte. I'd barely been at Bravura Tech for 3 months. 3 long, exhausting months of making copies, scheduling meetings that nobody attended, and running across the office like some kind of caffeine courier. My official title was administrative assistant, but everyone just called me the coffee girl. Everyone except Brad, my boss. He called me Maya the Mistake. Yeah, charming. Now picture this, an open concept office with glass walls, too many motivational posters, teamwork makes the dream work, and fluorescent lights so harsh they could interrogate a confession out of anyone. In the middle of this corporate jungle sat Brad, 6 feet of self-importance in a designer suit. The man wore confidence like cologne, and you could smell it from across the room. Every morning I brought him his custom coffee order, oat milk, 2 pumps of vanilla, half foam, double shot, extra hot, not too sweet but not bitter either. He said it like it was a personality trait. That Monday morning, I stood in the elevator clutching his precious drink like it was radioactive. My palms were sweating. My heart thumped like a warning drum. Because the last time I messed up his coffee, he made me stand in front of the entire office and explain the difference between almond and oat milk. I wish I were kidding. As I walked toward his office, I could already hear him on the phone. His voice boomed through the glass walls, arrogant, polished, full of fake charm. Yeah, don't worry, I'll take full credit for it, he said, laughing. You know me, I make things happen. I paused. Full credit. A chill ran down my spine. That project, my project, the one I stayed up all weekend finishing, the one he said he'd review. I clenched my jaw. Not today, Maya, keep calm, deliver the latte, don't make a scene. I took a deep breath, pushed open the glass door, and smiled the kind of smile that hides 20 different insults. Your coffee, Brad. He glanced at me without breaking conversation, still smirking into the phone. Finally, he said, snapping his fingers like I was some barista on a leash. You're slower than usual, Maya. Everything okay? Did you forget which end of the cup to hold this time? His audience, a cluster of interns pretending to work, chuckled nervously. I felt the heat rise to my face. My fingers twitched. I could already hear my inner voice chanting, don't throw it, don't throw it, don't throw it. And then, because the universe loves comedy, someone bumped into me. Raj, our IT guy, came rushing by, juggling 2 laptops and 3 bagels. Sorry, he said, panicked. I stumbled forward. The coffee tilted. Time slowed down like a movie scene, the cup spinning, Brad's smirk fatting, everyone's eyes widening. And then it happened. Splash. Hot latte, right across his $800 Italian suit. The entire office gasped in perfect harmony. You could hear keyboards stop typing, phones stop ringing, and somewhere in the back, a printer jammed in sympathy. Brad froze. His expression went from smug to murderous in 2 seconds flat. Maya, he roared, staring down at his dripping jacket. What the hell did you do? It was an accident, Raj bumped. Don't you dare blame someone else for your incompetence, he snapped. He peeled off his jacket dramatically, like a villain in a soap opera. Do you have any idea what this suit costs? I bit back a sarcastic reply. Oh, I knew exactly what it cost. He mentioned it at least twice a week. I said I'm sorry, I muttered. Sorry doesn't fix stupidity, he shouted. And that was it. The entire office went dead silent. Everyone stared. Even the potted plant in the corner looked uncomfortable. I stood there, latte-stained and shaking, and something inside me, something small and tired and overworked, snapped. I smiled, a small, dangerous smile. You're right, I said softly. Sorry doesn't fix stupidity, especially yours. The look on his face was priceless, like I'd just slapped him with a donut. You're fired, he hissed. But before I could even process that, our HR manager, Lena, appeared like a guardian angel with anxiety. Brad, let's not be rash, she said, stepping between us. It was an accident. Nobody's getting fired over coffee. Brad scoffed. Oh, sure, maybe next she'll spill soup on the CEO. Let's give her a raise while we're at it. He stormed off toward the bathroom, dripping oat milk and fury. Lena sighed and turned to me. Go clean up, Maya, I'll talk to him. I nodded, still trembling. My throat burned not from fear, but from every insult I'd swallowed in silence since I started here. As I walked to the break room, I could hear the whispers starting behind me. Did you see her face? Brad's gonna kill her. I'd die if that happened to me. Yeah, well, part of me kind of wished I could crawl into the coffee machine and disappear. But another part, the stubborn, fiery part, was starting to wake up. The rest of the day crawled by. Brad avoided me, which was honestly a blessing. I cleaned up the spill, finished my reports, and pretended nothing happened. But inside, I was boiling hotter than that latte. At lunch, I sat alone by the vending machine, poking at a sad sandwich that tasted like cardboard and regret. Raj approached looking guilty. Hey, Maya, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to bump into you. It's fine, I said. You didn't bump into me, fate did. He laughed nervously. Still, Brad, being extra dramatic, he told everyone you attacked him with coffee. I snorted. Oh great, I'm now the coffee assassin. Then Lena joined us, carrying her salad and a look of concern. Maya, you okay? Yeah, just mentally drafting my resignation letter. She shook her head. Don't. He can't fire you without HR approval, and trust me, I'm not letting that happen. I smiled faintly. Thanks, Lena, but I think I'm done playing the office punching bag. Lena leaned in, lowering her voice. You know, Brad's not exactly clean. I've seen things, weird expense reports, late-night business dinners. If he pushes you again, maybe push back harder. I looked at her, my mind sparking. What kind of things? Let's just say, she whispered, he's the kind of guy who'd sell the company printer if he thought it would make him look good. That sentence stayed with me. All afternoon, as I shuffled papers and ignored Brad's tantrums echoing through his glass fishbowl of an office, that thought brewed in the back of my mind, like a slow, dark roast of revenge. By 5 p.m., everyone was packing up. I sat at my desk, staring at his office door. He was still in there, talking loudly, bragging to someone on speakerphone. Yeah, man, she practically begged to keep her job, he laughed. Pathetic, but I'll make her work double this week, teach her some respect. That was the moment the switch flipped. Respect, he wanted respect. Fine, he was going to get it served hot, with a side of poetic justice. I started making notes in my planner. Names, dates, little details he slipped up about. Lena's words echoed in my head, weird expense reports, late-night dinners, lies. I didn't know what my plan was yet, but I knew one thing, this wasn't over. When I finally got home that night, I collapsed on my couch, still wearing my coffee-stained shirt. My cat, Machi, jumped onto my lap, purring like he didn't care about my office drama. I stared at the ceiling and replayed the day in my head. The spill, the shouting, the humiliation. Then I whispered to myself, you messed with the wrong barista, Brad. Machi meowed in agreement. I smiled. Tomorrow I'd start small. I'd keep my head down, play nice, pretend to forget. But deep down, I already knew the truth. I was done being the coffee girl. It was time to brew something bigger. Something stronger. Something unforgettable. The next morning, I woke up with a hangover, not from alcohol, but from rage. You know that weird ache behind your eyes when you've argued with someone in your head all night? Yeah, that was me. I'd replayed every insult Brad had ever thrown my way like a greatest hits album of humiliation. When I got to the office, I was prepared for the whispers, and oh, they came. Maya's still here. I thought Brad fired her. She must have 9 lives. I smiled and kept walking. Let them talk, let them laugh. I had a new mission now, and step 1 was survival. Brad was already in his office, wearing another expensive suit and the smugness of someone who thinks he's untouchable. He didn't even look at me when I placed his coffee on his desk. Don't spill it this time, he muttered. I wanted to reply, don't exist this time, but I swallowed it. Instead, I gave him a fake, sweet smile and said, of course not, sir. I walked out quietly, but my mind was screaming. Operation Payback has begun. Step 1, watch and learn. For the next few days, I became invisible. I smiled, nodded, did my job, and pretended everything was fine. Meanwhile, I was observing. Every move Brad made, every lie he told, every fake compliment he gave to the CEO, I was there, watching from behind my polite little smile. Brad was predictable. Every morning he bragged about his networking skills, which really meant brown-nosing the executives. Every afternoon he yelled at interns for fun. Every evening he stayed late to work on reports that I had already finished for him. One day, I walked past his office and caught a glimpse of his screen. He was editing a document, a report I'd made, and changing my name to his. Typical. I quietly took my phone out and snapped a photo. Evidence. Step 1 complete. Step 2, find allies. I knew I couldn't do this alone. Brad had power, connections, and an ego that filled 3 floors of the building. I had sarcasm and a coffee mug with a chip in it. I needed backup. So I went straight to the people who had nothing left to lose, the underdogs of Bravura Tech. First, there was Lena, the HR manager who'd saved me from being fired. She was smart, kind, and dangerously observant. She also had access to records, useful ones. Then there was Raj, the IT guy who basically lived in the server room. He was clumsy, paranoid, and convinced the printer was spying on him, but he knew how to find things, hidden things. I invited them both to the break room after work. Lena arrived first, holding a folder like it contained state secrets. You wanted to talk. Yeah, I said, lowering my voice. About Brad. Her eyes lit up, finally. Raj burst in 5 minutes later, breathing heavily. Sorry, I had to make sure nobody followed me. Raj, I said, this is an office, not a spy movie. You'd be surprised, he whispered, glancing at the ceiling tiles. They have cameras everywhere. Lena rolled her eyes. Ignore him, what's the plan? I took a deep breath. I want to expose Brad. I don't mean a prank or some petty revenge. I mean really expose him, his lies, his fake reports, his dirty tricks. Everything. Lena's lips curved into a slow smile. Now that, she said, I can get behind. Raj leaned forward. You mean like a covert mission? Exactly, I said. Operation Payback. He grinned. I'll make badges. Step 3, gather evidence. Over the next week, we worked in secret. Lena started checking through HR files and expense reports. Raj monitored Brad's emails, which was easy, apparently, because Brad used the same password for everything. Brad Boss 123. I focused on staying close to him. I played the part of the obedient assistant again, took notes, fetched coffee, smiled through insults. Every time he said something awful, I imagined the moment he'd finally crumble. And oh, he gave us material. He was stealing company funds to pay for client dinners that didn't exist. He was plagiarizing work from other departments. He even made interns write his LinkedIn posts, which he proudly called thought leadership. Lena would text me every night with updates. Found fake receipts. He billed the company for a weekend in Miami. He's been deleting employee complaints about him. I restored them. He actually filed a leadership bonus for himself last month. It was both disgusting and hilarious. Raj, meanwhile, was on a mission of his own. I hacked his calendar, he announced one afternoon, whispering dramatically over his sandwich. He's meeting with the CEO next week to pitch your project. I froze. Wait, my project? The one you did all the research for, the marketing proposal. Of course, Brad was going to present it as his own, again. But this time I didn't panic. This time I smiled. Perfect opportunity. Step 4, stir the pot. A few days before Brad's big presentation, we decided to test the waters, start small, make him sweat. Raj tampered with his computer background, so it displayed a slideshow of random memes saying things like fake boss energy and lies brewed fresh daily. Brad thought he was hallucinating. Then Lena accidentally scheduled a meeting called Brad Accountability Review. Everyone got the invite, including the CEO. Brad stormed through the office yelling, "Who did this?" His face turned so red he looked like an angry tomato in a suit. I was sitting at my desk, sipping my latte calmly. "Everything okay, sir?" I asked sweetly. He glared at me like he could sense I was enjoying this. "Don't test me, Maya." Oh, I wouldn't dream of it. Inside, I was screaming with laughter. But as fun as the little chaos was, I knew we had to go bigger, much bigger. Step 5, the big plan. One evening, Lena, Raj, and I met at my apartment, our unofficial war room. My cat Machi supervised from the couch. Lena spread out her notes. "We've got fake receipts, deleted complaints, and copies of your project files showing your name as the creator. That's solid evidence." Raj added, "And I've got his emails bragging about stealing credit. He even called you the caffeine intern in one of them." I sighed, how creative of him. Lena grinned. So here's what we do. We let him present the project. We act like nothing's wrong, then. Then we crash his little show, I finished. Raj looked thrilled. Ooh, like a movie scene. Exactly. We'd let him walk into his own trap, confidently, arrogantly, with his fake charm, and then pull the rug out from under him. Step 6, the calm before the roast. The week dragged by. Brad was in full leader mode, strutting around, making speeches to interns about vision and innovation. He didn't even notice I was back to smiling again, the kind of smile people wear right before they ruin your life. On Friday, he came to my desk. Maya, make sure you've got the presentation file ready for Monday. I want it perfect. Oh, it's perfect, I said. He smirked. For once, you might actually be useful. I nodded politely, but inside I was laughing. You have no idea what's coming, Brad. Over the weekend, Raj stayed up finalizing our plan. He added a few enhancements to the presentation. I didn't ask what. I trusted him. Lena prepared backup files and printed copies of everything, evidence, reports, receipts. She was the strategist. And me, I rehearsed my face, the calm, innocent, oh dear, how did that happen, face I'd need on Monday. Step 7, the setup. Monday arrived. The air in the office felt electric. Everyone was buzzing. The CEO was coming down for Brad's presentation, and he'd been hyping it up like he was launching a rocket to Mars. I walked in early and placed his coffee on the desk. Extra hot, I said, smiling. He glanced up, trying to redeem yourself, huh? I shrugged, just doing my job. He didn't even say thank you. By 10 a.m., the conference room was full. The CEO, a few board members, and the entire management team were seated. Brad stood at the front, adjusting his tie like he was about to give the State of the Union address. I sat in the back beside Lena and Raj. My heart was racing, but my face was calm. Brad started strong, fake charm, perfect smile. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to present my latest initiative, the Future Forward Marketing Strategy. He clicked the first slide. Our logo appeared, sleek and polished. Then the next slide. And the next. Everything looked normal. Until Raj's code kicked in. Step 8, the brew begins. Halfway through the presentation, the slides started glitching. Brad frowned. Must be a technical issue. Then suddenly, boom. The next slide popped up with a photo of Brad singing karaoke in a leopard print shirt, captioned, Leadership in Motion. The room erupted in laughter. Brad turned pale. That's not supposed to be there. Another click. A screenshot of his fake expense reports. Dinner with client, $400, Miami Beach. Under it in red letters, client not real. The CEO's eyebrows shot up. Brad started sweating. I can explain. Next slide, an email from him to a coworker. Don't tell Maya I'm presenting her project. She'll just cry about it. The room gasped. I sat there, sipping my coffee like it was the best latte I'd ever had. Lena leaned over and whispered, beautiful timing. Brad's voice cracked. This is sabotage. The CEO stood. Brad, is this true? Brad looked around, desperate. It's all lies, she did this, he pointed at me. The room turned to look. I stood slowly, calm as ever. Sir, I said, everything on that screen is verified. I have copies of every file, every report, every receipt. Lena handed over the folder. Raj nodded silently like a proud hacker dad. Brad stammered, You set me up. I smiled sweetly. You did that yourself, I just added the visuals. He was escorted out within an hour. The office was silent, then someone started clapping. Then another. Then the whole room burst into applause. For the first time in months, I didn't feel small. I felt free. That night I went home, fed Machi, and raised my mug to the ceiling. To justice, I said aloud, and to the next phase. Because revenge wasn't over yet. This was just the beginning. If you've ever tasted victory, you know it's sweet. But if you've ever served victory to your enemy cold, with oat milk and sarcasm, it's even sweeter. The Monday after Brad's downfall was the calmest morning our office had ever seen. The air smelled like relief and freedom. Even the printer wasn't jamming for once. Everyone was smiling. Even the plants looked happier. Brad, however, was nowhere to be found. HR said he was on suspension pending investigation, which was corporate code for he's done, but we need paperwork. I sat at my desk, sipping my latte, pretending to work while secretly replaying the entire presentation fiasco in my mind. The slides, the gasps, the chaos, the CEO's face when he saw Brad's karaoke photo, perfection. Still, I knew better than to relax. People like Brad don't just disappear quietly. They crawl back, louder, meaner, and twice as stupid. And I was right. Return of the latte villain. 3 days later, I walked into the office and froze. There he was, Brad, wearing sunglasses indoors and holding a paper cup from the cafe downstairs like he owned the world again. "Maya," he said smoothly, "miss me." I blinked, like I'd miss food poisoning. He smirked, "Cute. Just so you know, the CEO accepted my apology. They're letting me return temporarily while they review the case." My blood boiled. "You're joking." "Do I look like I joke?" he said, straightening his tie. "Face it, Maya, I always land on my feet." I smiled. "That's okay. Cats land on their feet too, right before they scratch your eyes out." He didn't laugh. "Careful," he said softly. "You might think you've won, but I've got friends upstairs, and trust me, you're not one of them." He turned and walked away, leaving a trail of arrogance and overpriced cologne. I stood there frozen, latte in hand. He was back. And he was planning something. The alliance returns. That night I called an emergency meeting. Same place, my apartment. Same snacks, cold pizza, and emotional damage. Lena was furious. They brought him back after everything. Raj was packing, muttering to himself. "He's a virus. You can't just delete him once. You have to quarantine, isolate, then wipe the drive." I sighed. "He's up to something. He made it clear he's going after me. We need to stay ready." Lena leaned forward. "Then let's turn defense into offense. If he wants war, we'll give him chaos." Raj raised his slice of pizza. "Operation Chaos Latte." I grinned. "Perfect." Phase 1, annoyance level 100. The next morning I began with something small. Harmless, petty, perfect. I switched Brad's office chair with the one from the break room, the squeaky, uneven one everyone hated. The moment he sat down, it made a sound that could only be described as angry duck. By noon, the entire floor could hear him yelling. Then Raj took over. He programmed Brad's computer to autocorrect certain words in his emails. Meeting became mating. Strategy became stupidity. Best regards became forever yours, Brad. Within hours, chaos spread. One client replied, "Brad, please clarify if this is a business or personal invitation." Lena almost fell out of her chair laughing. But the crown jewel came when Brad accidentally emailed the CEO. "Looking forward to discussing our stupidity plan tomorrow. Forever yours, Brad." I had to hide in the supply room to laugh without choking. Phase 2, stir the storm. After a week of pranks, Brad started losing his mind. He blamed everyone, IT, HR, the janitor, even the coffee machine. "Someone's sabotaging me," he shouted one morning, "and when I find out who, heads will roll." Lena muttered, "Make sure yours goes first." He didn't hear her, but I did. I nearly snorted my coffee through my nose. Still, I knew we couldn't just keep pranking him forever. I wanted something bigger, something legendary. Then came the idea. I was scrolling through his calendar, thank you, Raj, when I saw it, a meeting scheduled with a major investor. Apparently, Brad was pitching a new product idea. He called it Project Boost. Curiosity killed the cat, sure, but satisfaction revived the barista. I opened the attached presentation. It was trash. Buzzwords, stock photos, zero actual content. But the kicker, he'd put my name in the assistant credits at the end, like I was his unpaid intern again. That was it, war officially declared. Phase 3, the Chaos Latte unleashed. We got to work. Raj replaced all the stock images in Brad's slideshow with random pictures. A raccoon eating a donut, a cat in a suit, a coffee mug that said "World's Worst Boss." Lena edited the text to sound ridiculous but almost professional. Slide 1, Project Boost, the future of boosting things that need to be boosted. Slide 2, innovation means never asking questions, just doing random stuff and hopping it works. Slide 3. Our main competitor is success. We even changed his closing line to, "At Bravura Tech, we don't just think outside the box, we forget where we put the box." We were crying laughing by the end of it. The day of the meeting. Brad strutted into the boardroom that Friday like a peacock who thought he was a lion. His hair was perfect, his smile fake, his confidence untouchable. He didn't notice us standing near the back, pretending to take notes. He began, "Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to introduce my vision, Project Boost." Click. Slide 1 appeared, the raccoon eating a donut. Brad blinked. "Oh, that's our mascot." The investors exchanged confused looks. Click. Slide 2, the text read, "Step 1, have no plan. Step 2, hope for miracles." Someone coughed to hide a laugh. Click. Slide 3, the cat in a suit with the caption, "Meow vehement toward progress." Lena whispered, "That's my favorite one." Brad's face was turning red. Clearly, there's been a technical mix-up. Click. Final slide, "Our competitor is success. Let's beat it together." Silence, then laughter, actual laughter from the investors. One of them said, "This is the boldest presentation I've ever seen." Brad stammered, I didn't, it's not." The CEO raised an eyebrow. "Brad, maybe you should take some time off again." We barely made it out of the room before bursting into hysterics. Aftermath, the office on fire. By the end of the day, everyone knew. The slides had gone viral within the company. People were printing them, putting them on their desks, even making memes. Brad tried to save face. He sent an all-staff email. "There was a technical issue during my presentation. Someone hacked my file." To which Raj replied, from a fake account, of course. Who would hack that? It was already a disaster. Brad was furious. He started yelling at random people, threatening lawsuits, demanding IT purge the servers. But the damage was done. His reputation roasted. And me, I was enjoying every sip of it. But then the twist. Just when I thought we'd won again, things took a turn. I came in on Monday to find a notice on my desk, a formal warning from HR. "You are under investigation for misconduct and data tampering." My stomach dropped. Lena burst into my office minutes later, furious. "I didn't approve this. Someone's using my name on fake paperwork." "Brad," I said quietly. He was behind it again. He'd somehow gotten temporary access to HR's system and filed a fake report, making it look like I'd sabotaged his work. I wanted to scream, but instead I sat down, calm, cold, focused. He wanted war. Fine. He was about to get the espresso shot of vengeance. Phase 4, brewing the counterattack. That night, our alliance regrouped. Raj slammed his laptop open. "He's good, but not that good. I can trace where he sent the fake report from." Lena leaned forward. "Find it. Once we prove he falsified HR documents, he's finished, not suspended, fired." I sat back, arms crossed, and let's make sure everyone sees it happen this time. Raj cracked his knuckles like a hacker in a movie. Time to brew justice, baby. The showdown. By Tuesday morning, Raj had found it. The fake report came from Brad's office computer at 2 a.m. Saturday night. He'd stayed late to frame me. Lena printed everything. The email logs, the timestamps, even a CCTV still of Brad entering the office after hours. We walked straight into the CEO's office, calm and collected. "Morning," I said. "We thought you should see this." The CEO scrolled through the evidence, his jaw tightening. "He forged HR documents." "Yes," Lena said firmly. "He tried to frame Maya." The CEO sighed. I gave him a second chance. I smiled slightly, and he spilled it again. The final brew. That afternoon, Brad was called into a meeting. He didn't come out for an hour. When he finally did, he looked like a deflated balloon. No sunglasses, no smirk, no confidence, just silence. He passed my desk muttering, "You'll regret this." I looked up and smiled. "Already don't." He walked out for the last time. The office broke into quiet cheers. Someone even started clapping. Raj whispered, "Should we get a cake?" I grinned, "No need. His tears are sweet enough." Epilogue of the chaos. That evening, I stayed late, sitting at my desk with one last cup of coffee. For the first time, it wasn't bitter, it was peace. Lena got promoted, Raj became head of it, and me? The CEO called me in and said, "You've got leadership potential, Maya. Ever thought about management?" I almost laughed, only if I can do it with caffeine. He smiled, "Whatever works." When I left the office that night, I looked back once, the same glass walls, the same posters, but everything felt different. Because now I wasn't the coffee girl, I was the one who turned chaos into justice. And that felt better than any promotion. I raised my cup to the empty hallway. "To Brad," I said softly, "may your next latte spill be eternal." Then I took a long, slow sip, victory extra hot. If revenge was a drink, I'd say it tasted like caramel macchiato, smooth, bold, and with just enough sweetness to hide the bitterness underneath. Brad was gone, officially fired, and the office had never felt lighter. People actually smiled. No more fake compliments, no more shouting, no more tiptoeing around his moods. For a few weeks, it felt like peace had finally brewed in my life. But peace, I learned, is just the silence before the next storm. The return nobody ordered. One Thursday morning, I came in early, latte in hand, humming to myself, and then I froze. On my desk sat an envelope. No name, no logo, just my name written in bold red letters, Maya. My stomach sank. Inside was a single sheet of paper. It read, "Enjoy your little victory, coffee girl. It's not over." No signature, but I didn't need one. The arrogance dripped off every word like spilled cream. "Brad." I laughed out loud, but it wasn't funny. He was gone, but somehow he still had his claws in here. I looked around. The office was normal, too normal. People typing, chatting, pretending like they weren't living in the sequel to corporate chaos. The latte strikes back. I crumpled the note and tossed it in the trash. "Nice try, Brad," I muttered, "but this barista doesn't scare easy." Still, a small part of me felt uneasy. And by noon, I found out why. The new face of trouble. We were all called into the main conference room. The CEO, Mr. Wallace, stood at the front looking pleased. "Team," he said, "I'm happy to announce we've hired a new head of marketing, someone with experience, charisma, and leadership potential." I swear I felt time slow down as the door opened. And there he was. Brad, looking cleaner, calmer, rehabilitated. His hair slicked back, his suit a new shade of "I bribed my way back." He smiled like he'd never blackmailed an intern in his life. "Good to be back," he said smoothly. "I've learned from my mistakes. I'm here to rebuild trust." I nearly choked on my coffee. Rebuild trust? That man couldn't rebuild a Lego set. He looked right at me. "Isn't that right, Maya?" The room went silent. Everyone turned to me. I forced a smile. "Of course, Brad, we're all thrilled." Inside, I was screaming. Round 2, brewing begins. After the meeting, Lena pulled me into her office. "What the hell?" "Apparently," I said, packing, "the CEO thinks he's a changed man." "He's changed all right," she muttered. "Now he's more dangerous." Raj joined in over video call. "I knew it. I told you he'd find a way back in. You can't uninstall evil." I sighed. "We can't pull the same tricks again. If we go after him now, it'll look personal." Lena nodded. "So we wait." "No," I said, "we watch." Because Brad always made the same mistake. He underestimated people, especially me. The smile behind the smoke. For the next few weeks, Brad acted like a saint. He brought donuts to meetings, complimented people, even held team-building sessions. He was trying to rebrand himself like a bad coffee chain with a new logo. But beneath the smile, I could feel it. The plotting, the manipulation, the quiet digs. He started taking subtle shots at me in meetings. "Maya's doing her best," he'd say with that fake supportive tone. "We can't all be experts, right?" I wanted to throw my coffee at him again, but I held it in. I waited, and one day I got my chance. The setup. Brad announced he was going to give a company-wide presentation to show his new marketing vision. He called it Project Renaissance. Oh, of course, dramatic, pretentious, and completely stolen. I knew that name. It was from an old project file I'd started 6 months ago, back when he was still pretending to mentor me. He'd taken it again. I looked at Lena. He's doing it again. She sighed. He doesn't learn. Raj cracked his knuckles. Then neither do we. But I stopped him. No hacks this time, no memes. This time we end him legally and publicly. The trap. For days we planned quietly. Lena checked records. Brad had been using company funds again. Fancy dinners, expensive client gifts. The man couldn't stop himself. Raj managed to get access to the internal network, legally this time, and traced his presentation files. Inside them were plagiarized slides from old campaigns and data he'd copied straight off the internet. I smiled. Perfect, he's building his own grave. All we had to do was let him bury himself, and then shine a spotlight on it. The day of the roast. Friday, 11 a.m., the entire office gathered in the big conference room again. Brad stood at the front, radiating fake confidence. "Good morning, everyone," he began, packing dramatically. "Today, we enter a new era, a renaissance of creativity, integrity, and leadership." I almost laughed at the word integrity. He started clicking through slides, graphs, slogans, pictures, none of them his. Every sentence was stolen, every number made up. And yet people nodded. He was a smooth talker, I'll give him that. Then halfway through, he looked straight at me. And of course, I couldn't have done it without my amazing assistant, Maya. My blood boiled. Assistant. Lena shot me a look. Wait. I took a deep breath. Okay, showtime. The roast begins. The moment he clicked to the final slide, the screen froze and then flickered. Brad frowned. A technical issue. And then it happened. The slideshow switched to a new folder, one labeled Confidential. Raj had timed it perfectly. On the screen appeared a series of receipts, Brad's personal expenses, company reimbursements, and a few very questionable dinner photos. Gasps filled the room. "What's this?" one manager said. Brad's voice trembled. "This isn't mine." Next slide, copies of his old emails, the ones where he insulted coworkers and bragged about stealing ideas. Laughter and whispers spread across the room. Then came the final slide, his Project Renaissance file, side by side with the original version, my version, complete with timestamps showing I'd written it first. The CEO turned slowly to look at him. "Brad, care to explain?" Brad stammered. It's a mistake, she's framing me." I stood calm, confident, every eye turned to me. "Actually, sir," I said, "we've been documenting everything, the expense fraud, the plagiarism, the lies, all verified." I placed a folder on the table, a thick one. Every detail in there. Brad's face went white. You set me up." I smiled. "No, you set yourself up, I just pressed play." The fall. The CEO stood, flipping through the pages. Then he sighed. "Brad, I gave you a second chance. Apparently that was one too many." Security arrived, quietly, efficiently. Brad's eyes darted around the room, desperate. "You can't do this to me. I'm the reason this company has headaches," I finished for him. "You're welcome for the cure." People actually laughed, loudly. Brad turned to me one last time, furious. "You think you've won, coffee girl? You'll never." I interrupted. "Oh, Brad, I don't think I know." He was escorted out, again, but this time for good. The aftertaste. The room erupted into whispers, laughter, even applause. Someone shouted, "Maya for CEO." Lena grinned. "You roasted him alive." Raj clapped me on the back. And with presentation slides, the irony is delicious. The CEO approached me afterward. "Maya," he said, "you've shown more leadership and composure than half my management team. We owe you." I smiled, just doing what's right. He chuckled. "You've got a future here, big one." Later that night, I walked home in the golden glow of sunset, latte in hand, my reflection smiling back at me from every glass window I passed. When I got home, Machi greeted me with his usual indifference. I sat down on the couch, still wearing my work clothes, and finally exhaled. It was over. Brad gone for good. My name cleared. Justice served hot. I thought about everything. The spills, the humiliation, the sleepless nights, the revenge plots that felt like madness. And somehow it all felt worth it. Because sometimes you have to be your own hero, even if that means spilling a few lattes along the way. I raised my cup toward the ceiling. To the fallen, I said softly, and to the ones who rise stronger. Machi meowed like he agreed. I smiled, and as I took a slow sip, I whispered to myself, half a joke, half a promise. Never underestimate the girl who knows how to grind. They say revenge is sweet, but nobody warns you about the aftertaste. After Brad's final humiliation, his grand public roasting, I expected peace. I expected quiet. I expected to finally sip my morning latte without the flavor of stress and rage. For a while, I got that. The office was calm again. Everyone was friendly. Lena was glowing with her promotion. Raj was busy setting up new security systems, which he named Project Firewall of Justice. And I was finally being treated like someone who mattered. The CEO even said he was considering me for a senior position. Me, the coffee girl. It should have been perfect. But peace in my life never lasts longer than a cup of coffee. The smell of trouble. It started small, a rumor here, a whisper there. Someone in accounting claimed that I was behind Brad's downfall, that I manipulated the evidence to get him fired, that I wanted his job. At first, I laughed it off. People love gossip, I told Lena. Next week, they'll say I'm dadding the printer. But the whispers grew. A few days later, HR called me in for a quick discussion. When I walked into the small conference room, the air was cold. Too quiet, the kind of quiet that meant something was wrong. Mr. Wallace, the CEO, sat there with a serious expression. Next to him was Harriet, the new HR rep, one of Brad's old friends from another company. "Take a seat, Maya," she said with a fake smile. "We've received an anonymous complaint against you." My heart thudded. Complaint about what? She slid a folder toward me. Inside were printed screenshots, emails, messages, and reports supposedly showing that I had fabricated evidence against Brad. I stared. This isn't real. Harriet crossed her legs. "The timestamps match your work hours. These are your login credentials." I looked up at Mr. Wallace. "Sir, this is fake. Brad's the only one who'd." He held up a hand. "Calm down, Maya. We just need to get to the bottom of this." I took a deep breath. "You think I did this?" He sighed. "I want to believe you, but this evidence is serious." My stomach twisted. I felt the room tilt. Brad, he was gone, but his poison was. The shock. They suspended me for further review. Suspended. Me. After everything I did, everything I risked. I walked out of the building with my badge turned off, my head spinning, my chest tight. I sat in my car and just stared at the steering wheel. My reflection in the rearview mirror looked like someone else, tired, betrayed, broken. "Not again," I whispered. "He's not doing this again." I texted Lena and Raj immediately. "Me, they suspended me." "Lena, what?" "Raj, that snake's back from the grave." "Me, he set me up. He planted fake evidence." "Lena, I'm coming over." The rebrew. That night, my living room turned into our war room again. Lena paced like a lawyer preparing for battle. Raj had his laptop open, cables everywhere, his eyes glowing like a hacker from an action movie. "I checked the file metadata," Raj said. "Those screenshots weren't made from your computer. They were sent from an external IP address." "Can we trace it?" I asked. He grinned. "Oh, we can trace it, brew it, and serve it back." Lena sat down next to me. "He's using proxies, but we'll find him. We'll prove this." I looked at them, my team, my friends, and felt a flicker of hope. If Brad wanted war again, fine. But this time it wasn't about revenge. It was about clearing my name. The hidden roast. For the next week, I was technically suspended, but that didn't stop me. Raj worked nights tracing digital fingerprints. Lena kept an eye on HR and the CEO. I sat at home, restless, angry, planning. One night around 2 a.m., Raj called me. "Maya," he whispered dramatically, "I found something." "What?" "There's a fake account on the company server, names M. Barnes admin." My breath caught. Brad's old login. "Exactly. He's been using it remotely. He's still in the system." "How?" Raj cracked his knuckles. "Someone reinstated his access, probably Harriet." My anger boiled over. So he's not just framing me, he's working with her. Yup, looks like he's trying to make you the villain of his redemption story. I clenched my fists, then let's ruin his plot. The plan? We needed undeniable proof, not just suspicion. Something that would not only clear my name but end his little act forever. So we built a trap. Raj created a fake email from me to Harriet, something bait-worthy, something that would tempt them into responding. It hinted that I had backup evidence of Brad's misdeeds on an encrypted drive. We set it up so the fake drive link would automatically trace the IP of whoever opened it. Then we waited. For hours I refreshed my phone, nothing. By midnight, I gave up and went to bed, exhausted. The next morning, Raj texted. Raj, he took the bait. Me, you're serious? Raj, he opened the link at 11:43 from a hotel Wi-Fi. Guess where? I held my breath. Raj, the Grand Heights Hotel, room 907. I smiled slowly. Bingo. The confrontation. That evening, Lena and I went straight to the hotel. Raj stayed on the call, guiding us. You'll need to act natural. Security cameras are everywhere. Relax, I said. I'm just visiting an old friend with evidence of corporate sabotage. We reached the door of room 907. I could hear faint voices inside. Lena whispered, You sure about this? I nodded. He ruined my name. I'm taking it back. I knocked. Silence, then footsteps. The door opened, and there he was, Brad. He froze when he saw me. Maya. Miss me? I asked. He smirked. You shouldn't be here. I pushed the door open and walked in. Harriet was sitting on the bed, laptop open. Wow, I said. Plot twist, the villain had an accomplice. Harriet stood. You can't prove anything. I smiled. Actually, we can. Raj's voice came through my earpiece. Got it all. Live recording. Hotel Wi-Fi activity, timestamps, everything. Brad frowned. Recording what? Lena stepped forward, holding up her phone. You two really shouldn't use company servers for your little revenge projects. Harriet's face turned pale. You hacked. Traced, Raj corrected over speaker. Legally, because you accessed restricted files with a suspended employee's login. Brad's smirk faded. You can't prove it was me. Oh, I reached into my bag and pulled out a printed page, the exact IP address log tied to his hotel Wi-Fi. Looks pretty convincing to me. For a second, he looked speechless, the rarest moment of my life. Then he scoffed. You're bluffing. I stepped closer. Brad, you can fake emails, lie to bosses, and ruin reputations, but there's one thing you can't fake. He raised an eyebrow. And what's that? I smiled. Your stupidity. The final brew. We turned everything over to the CEO that night. Raj sent the full trace log, Lena submitted a detailed report, and I sat quietly in the conference room while they reviewed it all. When Mr. Wallace finished reading, he took off his glasses. Maya, I'm sorry. We should have trusted you from the start. Harriet was fired that same day. Brad, who had somehow convinced another company to vouch for him, was reported for cybercrime and permanently banned from corporate networks across our industry. His reputation was officially roasted. When the CEO handed me my reinstatement letter, he smiled. Welcome back, Maya, and congratulations, you're now promoted to team lead. For a moment, I couldn't speak. Really. You've shown resilience, leadership, and more patience than anyone I've ever met. You earned it. I exhaled shakily. Thank you, sir. He nodded. And Maya, no more coffee deliveries, okay? You're done serving others. Time they start serving you. After the storm, that night I went home exhausted but free. I changed into my comfiest pajamas, made myself a hot latte, and sat on my balcony under the city lights. The cool air brushed against my face as I thought about everything. The chaos, the betrayal, the revenge, the redemption. I wasn't the same person who spilled that first cup of coffee on Brad's suit. That girl was scared, quiet, desperate to please everyone. This version of me, she was calm, bold, and done apologizing. Machi jumped onto my lap and curled up, purring like a tiny motor. I looked down at him and smiled. We did it, buddy, we survived. He meowed his version of duh. I laughed softly, raising my cup to the night sky. Here to the comeback. Then, almost without thinking, I whispered, "Never underestimate the girl who knows how to grind twice." The twist ending. A week later, I was in my new office, yes, office, unpacking boxes and setting up my nameplate. Maya Ray's team lead. The phone buzzed, unknown number. I frowned and picked it up. Hello. A pause, then a familiar voice. "Enjoy your promotion, Maya." My heart froze. Brad. He chuckled darkly. "You might have won this round, but don't forget, every empire eventually falls." The line went dead. I stared at the phone for a long moment, then slowly smiled. "Let it fall," I said softly. "I'll just build a better one." I placed the phone down, stood, and looked out the window. The city stretched wide and bright, alive, endless, full of possibility. I wasn't scared anymore. Because no matter who tried to tear me down, I'd always rise, stronger, smarter, sharper. After all, I'd learned from the best villain in the business. And this time, I was ready for anything. People say revenge is a dish best served cold. Personally, I prefer it iced, smooth, calculated, and topped with just enough sweetness to make it go down easy. By the time the Brad saga reached its final act, I had learned something important. Villains don't stay buried. They crawl, they adapt, and they always make one last desperate move before disappearing for good. And I was ready for it. After my promotion, life at Bravura Tech was finally steady. The office buzzed with new projects, laughter, and peace, actual peace. For once, I didn't dread Mondays. My coffee tasted better. Even the printer stopped jamming. It almost felt like happiness. But deep down, I knew this was the quiet before one last storm. The warning shot. It came on a Wednesday. I was walking into the office, humming to myself, when Lena met me at the door with a grim face. "You need to see this," she said, handing me her phone. On the screen was a post from a business gossip page, corporate BuzzFeed, basically. Breaking, former Bravura Tech executive Brad Barnes to speak at Global Tech Expo 2025. Rumor says he'll reveal explosive information about corruption inside Bravura. My blood ran cold. "Explosive information," I said. "What's he gonna do, show them his karaoke videos again?" Lena didn't laugh. "He's trying to spin it, Maya. He's going to make you the villain." I took a deep breath. "So he's planning to smear me in front of the entire industry." "Exactly." I clenched my jaw. "Then I'll just have to crash his show." The plan bruise. That night we met again, me, Lena, and Raj, our unbreakable trio. Raj slammed his laptop down dramatically. "The expo's huge, Maya. Press, investors, CEOs, everyone will be there. If Brad gets to control the narrative first, he'll win sympathy." I smirked. "Then we'll control it better." Lena frowned. "You're thinking of confronting him." "Not just confronting him," I said. "Outsmarting him publicly." Raj grinned. "Oh, we're talking live stream humiliation. I like this energy." Lena sighed. "You're both insane." "Maybe," I said, "but this time it's not about revenge, it's about truth." She smiled faintly. "That's what you said before the karaoke slides." The setup. We spent the next week preparing. Raj got us digital passes to the expo under the names Event Consultants. He also printed us fake badges. Mine said Caffeine Specialist. Lena pulled strings to get access to the backstage area. Meanwhile, I worked on something special, a presentation of my own. Not about marketing, not about revenge, about truth, about power, about how women in the workplace are underestimated, dismissed, and still win anyway. It wasn't just a speech, it was a statement. And if Brad wanted to tell his story, I was going to tell mine louder. The expo. The Global Tech Expo was held in a massive convention center. Flashing lights, giant banners, free tote bags, and people pretending they weren't here just for the free coffee samples. As soon as we entered, Raj whispered, "Okay, we're officially in enemy territory." Lena adjusted her blazer. "Maya, you sure you want to do this?" I grinned. "Oh, absolutely. I live for dramatic endings." Brad's session was at noon. The title flashed across the giant screen. The Inside Story, Truth, Power, and Corporate Corruption. I nearly gagged. We found seats near the front, hidden behind a sea of curious executives, cameras everywhere. Brad walked on stage like a man reborn, sharp suit, fake confidence, the same smug smile I once spilled coffee on. "Thank you, everyone," he began, his voice full of false sincerity. "I'm here to expose the truth about what really happened at Bravura Tech." Oh, here we go. He told the story, twisting it completely. According to him, I had sabotaged him. I had stolen his projects. I had faked the evidence that got him fired. He even teared up a little, actual tears. "I was betrayed," he said dramatically, "by someone I trusted, someone I mentored." My blood boiled. Lena grabbed my arm. "Wait for the right moment." Raj whispered, 10 seconds until I hacked the projector feed. I exhaled slowly. Let's serve this iced. The takeover. Brad was in the middle of his sob story when the screen behind him glitched. He turned, "A technical issue, folks." The audience murmured. Then the glitch faded, replaced by a video. My video. The title appeared, "The Real Story Brewed with Facts." Brad froze. "What the?" The first clip rolled, footage of him bragging in emails, insulting coworkers, stealing my project. Then the receipts, the timestamps, the evidence we'd saved months ago. The audience gasped. I stood up. "Hi, everyone," I said loudly. "Sorry for the interruption. I figured if we're talking about truth, we should show the whole thing." Cameras swung toward me. Brad looked like he'd swallowed a stapler. He stammered, You can't just hijack my session." I smiled sweetly. "Oh, Brad, you started the story. I'm just finishing it." Laughter rippled through the crowd. The iced moment. Raj's voice came through my earpiece. "Feed's stable. You've got the floor." I stepped forward, taking the stage. My heart was pounding, but my voice was steady. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said into the mic, "this man has spent over a year trying to destroy my career. But here's the funny thing about lies, they melt under the light of truth." A ripple of applause. Brad tried to interrupt. "She's lying." "Am I?" I said, turning to the screen. Raj played the final clip, a recording of Brad himself from months ago, saying, "I'll make her pay. No one humiliates me and gets away with it." The room erupted. Cameras flashed. Reporters whispered furiously. Brad lunged for the laptop, shouting, "Turn it off." Security stepped in. I looked at him calmly. "You know, Brad, I used to think revenge was childish, but honestly," I tilted my head, "this feels pretty adult to me." The audience laughed. The CEO of Bravura Tech, sitting in the front row, stood and started clapping. Then the whole room joined in. Brad froze, his face red with fury, before storming off stage. I took a deep breath, smiled, and finished what I came to say. The speech. "Truth," I said, "isn't about who speaks louder. It's about who stands longer. It's about the people who get knocked down, ridiculed, underestimated, and still get back up." The audience was silent, listening. "I was called the coffee girl," I continued. "But here's the thing about coffee, it wakes people up. It fuels change. And maybe, just maybe, it burns the ones who play with fire." Laughter, then applause. I ended with a smile. "So here's to everyone who's ever been told they're not enough. Keep grinding, because one day you'll serve your truth, iced, elegant, and impossible to ignore." The room exploded in cheers. I looked at Lena and Raj in the crowd. They were both grinning like proud parents at a school play. And for the first time in forever, I felt weightless. The fallout. By evening, the video had gone viral. The latte of justice was trending. People were calling me the corporate barista of truth. Brad, he vanished. Again. The expo revoked his invitation, companies distanced themselves, and his so-called tell-all speech became a global joke. Even better, Bravura Tech offered me a major promotion, head of corporate communications. I accepted. Because why not? I'd already handled enough drama to fill 100 press releases. The victory brew. A week later, I was in my new office, overlooking the city. Sunlight streamed in through tall windows, and my nameplate gleamed proudly on the desk. Maya Ray's head of communications. Lena knocked on the door. "So, boss, how's it feel?" I grinned, like a venti cup of poetic justice. Raj popped his head in. "You know, we should celebrate, maybe name a drink after you." "Already did," I said, handing him a coffee cup. On it written in marker, "The Revenge Iced Latte served with karma." They burst out laughing. Lena raised her cup, to survival. Raj added, to caffeine and chaos. I lifted mine last, to justice brewed perfectly. We clinked cups, and for once everything felt right. The closure. That night I went home, changed into comfy clothes, and stood on my balcony again. The city lights shimmered below, endless and alive. I thought about the journey, from the spilled coffee to the stage spotlight, from humiliation to empowerment. And I realized something. I didn't win because I got revenge. I won because I stopped letting someone else write my story. I didn't just survive, I evolved. Machi jumped into my arms, purring softly. I smiled and whispered, "We did it again, huh?" He blinked lazily, which I took as a yes. I took one last sip of my iced latte and said to the night, "Justice doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be served, cold and undeniable." I smiled, and maybe with a straw. If you've ever reached the end of a long, messy story, you know it doesn't feel like fireworks or confetti. It feels quiet. Like that first sip of coffee in the morning, warm, grounding, real. That's how it felt for me. After the chaos, the lies, the revenge, and the truth finally being served, iced, of course, I expected my life to explode into something glamorous, like the universe would reward me with a golden cup and a parade. But instead, it gave me something better, peace. And peace, I realized, is louder than victory. The calm after the storm. It had been 3 months since the Global Tech Expo, 3 months since I turned Brad's lies into confetti in front of half the business world. Bravura Tech had completely transformed. No more fear, no more fake leadership, no more tiptoeing around toxic people. Lena was now the new head of HR because of course she was. She made the office feel human again. People laughed, took breaks, and nobody cried in the bathroom anymore. Raj was thriving too, now officially director of IT operations, though he still called himself the Firewall Knight. He even started hosting little tech classes every Friday, teaching people how not to get hacked, while sneaking dad jokes into every lesson. And me. I was now head of corporate communications. My office had a real window, a big desk, my own coffee machine, one that didn't scream at me like the old one in the break room. Every morning I'd stand by that window, watching the sunrise spill across the city and whisper to myself, "You made it." A new kind of power. It's funny, power doesn't feel the way I thought it would. It's not loud or dramatic. It's not about control or shouting orders. It's about knowing you can stand your ground, even when everything around you tries to push you down. Before all this, I used to think strength meant staying silent, smiling through pain, pretending everything was fine. Now I know strength is saying no. It's saying I deserve better. It's saying I'm not afraid anymore. And the best part, people started listening. Colleagues came to me for advice. Interns stopped by my office, nervous but hopeful, asking how I handled it all. One of them, a shy girl named Emily, asked me, "How did you not give up when everyone believed him?" I smiled, because I knew who I was, and I refused to let someone else define that. She looked at me like I'd just given her the secret to the universe. Maybe I had. The coffee revolution. A few months later, I did something crazy. I opened my own side business, a small coffee shop across the street from the office. I called it Brutality Coffee, Revenge in Every Cup. At first, people thought it was a joke, but then they came, they tried it, they loved it. Every cup had a message printed on the sleeve, things like, "Stay grounded, even when they stir you up." "Strong women, strong coffee." "Don't let anyone water you down." The place became more than a cafe. It became a symbol for everyone who'd ever been underestimated, mocked, or walked over. Sometimes I'd sit at the counter with my laptop, watching people sip their drinks, laugh, share stories, heal. And I'd think, this is what justice tastes like. The unexpected letter. One rainy afternoon, while I was closing the shop, a courier came in with a small envelope. No return address, just my name. I hesitated before opening it. Inside was a single card. "You win, I'm done fighting, I hope you're happy. B." I stared at it for a long time. Brad. No apology, no excuses, just a final bitter admission. I didn't feel joy or anger, just closure. I folded the card, placed it under the counter, and whispered, "I am happy, Brad, finally." Then I made myself an iced latte and toasted to the storm that had made me stronger. A new chapter. One evening, the company hosted a big event, a Future Leaders Gala. I was one of the speakers. Standing on that stage, looking at all the faces, young, nervous, ambitious, I realized how far I'd come from being the coffee girl. I took a deep breath and spoke. I used to think success was about titles, about being the loudest voice in the room. But I learned something better. Success is when you can walk away from people who tried to break you and still smile. I looked around the room, seeing nods, quiet smiles, maybe even tears. Your power, I continued, isn't given to you, you build it. Every time you get up after falling, every time you choose to stay kind in a cruel world, every time you refuse to let someone else spill your story. The crowd erupted in applause. Lena and Raj were in the front row, clapping like proud parents. And in that moment, I knew this wasn't just my story anymore. It was everyone's. The sweetest revenge. After the event, a group of execs approached me. "Maya," one said, "your journey is inspiring. Ever thought about writing a book?" I laughed. "About coffee and chaos. Not sure anyone would read that." He smiled. "Trust me, they will." That night, I started writing. Every memory, every mistake, every lesson poured out like steam from a fresh espresso shot. I called it the Latte of Justice. The Reunion. A year later, the book was published. It became a quiet success, nothing crazy, just something real. People sent me messages from all over, saying my story gave them courage to stand up for themselves. One day, while I was working at the coffee shop, a familiar face walked in. It took me a moment to recognize him, Brad. He looked older, tired, humbled. No expensive suit, no arrogance, just human. "Maya," he said quietly, "I read your book." I didn't say anything. He looked down. "You were right about everything." I sipped my drink. "I know." He gave a small, sad smile. "I wanted to thank you for not destroying me completely." I raised an eyebrow. "I didn't have to, you did that yourself." He nodded. "Yeah, I did." He turned to leave, but paused. "You really did make something beautiful out of all this." I smiled faintly. "That's what I do, I turn bitter things sweet." He chuckled softly and walked out into the rain. And that was the last time I ever saw him. Peace finally. Now every morning feels like a gift. I wake up, feed Machi, who's still my fluffy alarm clock, make my favorite latte, and walk to the shop early to watch the sunrise. Sometimes customers come in who have had bad days, people who look tired, hurt, invisible. And when they take their first sip and smile, I think, that's why I'm here. To remind people they can start over. That even when life spills all over them, they can clean it up, stand tall, and keep going. Because I did. The final sip. One evening, after closing the shop, I stood by the window as the city lights flickered on, each one like a tiny heartbeat. I thought about that girl who used to run around the office, spilling lattes, apologizing for existing. She would never believe where she ended up. But I do. Because every mistake, every heartbreak, every embarrassing coffee spill led me here. To strength, to peace, to purpose. I raised my cup one last time and whispered, "To everyone who's ever been underestimated, this one's for you." I smiled. Never forget who you are, never stop grinding, and when life gets messy. I took a slow, satisfied sip. Just stir it up and serve it better. A few weeks later, I stood in front of my cafe, locking up for the night. A new sign glowed above the door. Brutality Coffee, where justice is always served. Underneath it, I'd added a new slogan. Be strong, be bold, be your own shot of espresso. I looked up at it and smiled, feeling the cool breeze brush against my face. Machi meowed from the windowsill inside, like he was saying, "Finally, you're done." "Yeah," I said softly, "we're done." And for once, it wasn't revenge I tasted. It was freedom. Sweet, smooth, brutiful.